For today's video, we are back out here working on the Jon Boat. Today, I'm trying to work on something very specific. After getting all of the EVA foam applied to the flooring and top surfaces, there's one area that I really need to clean up, and that's the gap between the front deck and the center bench seat. I've been kicking around a bunch of different ideas, and unfortunately, all of them are not working out the way I planned. I tried using this aluminum threshold cover, I think that's what it was called, and I wanted to cut it out so the lid here had room to open and close, but the material was way too thin and it was just kind of getting chewed up by either my Dremel or the jigsaw. There's probably a better way to cut it that I just wasn't doing, but overall, I just wasn't really happy with how it was looking anyway. I decided to just abandon that whole idea. Next, I was thinking about trying to use just aluminum angle. My only concern is that it's gonna be very reflective and not really go with the style of the boat. My other option is painting it the same color as the actual hull itself. My only concern about that is like getting chips and scuffs from walking on it. If nothing else works, that may be the direction I go. Before I get into using the aluminum, which I don't think I'm gonna be doing, based on finding this J-channel trim, I wanted to go with something that was, I know, really good for UV exposure. This is obviously good for UV exposure because it's meant for outdoor vinyl siding trim. I measured the width of the EVA foam and the wood with my calipers here, and this came out to be about 5/8 inch. This is a 5/8 inch channel. So what I'm thinking is that if I could get this to slot into the front of the floor here, it has the J-channel portion, which is the extended portion here, that I can use to then tack into the bottom of the floor. When I bought this, it was about this long, and I actually took my car and it wasn't gonna fit, so I had them, actually I just asked them for a pair of scissors and I cut it down in place. So before I cut my main piece that's gonna be installed, I wanted to try and see how it fit by just using this scrap piece here, or if I'm gonna need to modify anything to make this work. So let's see if this is gonna fit on the flooring here. Yeah, I mean, for just rough fitting this on here, that fits really well. That actually fits super well. All right, so let me show you what I'm trying to work on here. On the bottom of the wood, there is these extra supports I added for the two pieces of wood to join them together, and it's causing this part right here to kind of ripple up. I think if I put some relief cuts right there on each side, this will slot in and sit a lot cleaner. Oh yeah, that fits really good there now. It did do what I wanted it to, where it flattened out the front here and everything sits nice and smooth on the back. So it's actually overhanging a little bit on this side. Trim this off here. Okay, it bridges the gap pretty well. There's still this gap right here. It's not too bad. And then this is no problem whatsoever, so that's good to see. I just wanted to clean up this edge to make it look a little bit more finished. And this really does that. I think that this looks really, really good. I think that I'm ready to move on to the full piece and get this cut up for the final installation. This worked out pretty good. I do know now from doing this side that I'm gonna need to trim back further than I thought because this isn't rolling over correctly the way it should be. But it's not far off, so that's good to see too. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this back over, get this piece removed, get the new piece put on, and then we'll start trimming it to fit. After I get this front trim piece installed, I'll show you how I'm getting this front floor fully secured down while also keeping it removable. All right, so I'm just gonna gently clamp this in place. That way I know it's where it needs to be. And that's fully on, it's sitting nice and flat, and that should install really nice like that now. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this, but I picked this up at Lowe's They also had them at Home Depot, $8. $8 for this piece of trim. So if this does work out, it's a very affordable solution for what I was trying to fix here. I think I'm pretty happy with this. It adds a very nice clean edge to it. It fills in the gap enough where it doesn't look like there's this huge gap between them. The only thing I'm considering is possibly lowering these two front mounts a little bit to just drop the floor down maybe like a ½ inch. I think that that might help everything look a little bit cleaner. I am happy with this trim edge, so I'm gonna go ahead and fasten this onto the bottom of the wood. I'll throw a link in the description for these truss head screws that I have, but these have come in so handy in a variety of applications. They are self-tapping, so they work for a lot of different metal to metal things, but I also like that there's just so many styles of screw, like lengths, that it's worked for a billion different things. Like that's what I'm using to hold the wood together here. And I also like how low profile they are. Technically, they're called truss head screws, which means they're usually used for aluminum siding or gutters and things like that, but they are stainless steel and they're gonna work for this application as well. And I'm just gonna add a couple here and there to keep this in place and see how that ends up looking. I gotta drop these supports down. So what I'm doing is just drilling out each side, and then we'll lower it and I'll have to trim up these posts. All right, let me just see if I can get this rivet on here. So like I mentioned early in the video, I'll have links in the description for any of the things that I'm using. Something else I recently set up was an Amazon storefront that pretty much has all of the supplies and tools that I use on every boat build. So rather than linking individual products every single build, I'll still try to do that just so it's easier to find things, but I'm also gonna include a link to the store. That way you guys can just kind of browse and see what it is you're looking for and, you know, grab it right from Amazon. So the vertical support isn't gonna fit until I trim that up. I have this one disconnected. Most of the flooring actually sits on the top of the ribs. So I wanna get this back in the boat and see how it sits with this lowered about a ½ inch. If that works, then I'll level it to the other side and get this all trimmed up and fit back in place. I really think that lowering the front of the floor down about a ½ inch is gonna really tie everything together. Honestly, that kind of fixed all my problems. That's all I needed, just to have it drop down that little bit. It closes in the gap. It makes the lid sit higher than the floor, which looks more natural. We'll get that other piece attached there so it's not raising up any higher than this one. Yeah, it's gonna sit like that. That's gonna look really good. That closes up the gap almost completely. So I'm gonna do a little bit of trimming on this side of the piece of wood. I'm gonna get the center support put back on, the vertical support on, and then we'll see if everything comes together the way I'm thinking it will. Looking almost perfect now. All right, now with the floor looking exactly how I want it, I need to take it back out of the boat one more time. This time, I'm gonna be sealing up any of the exposed wood that I had to trim off to get it to sit right. We're just gonna be using some oil-based paint for that. Then I'm gonna be adding an attachment mechanism to the horizontal braces that is gonna allow this deck to sit sturdy, but also removable. So I'm just gonna be hitting this with some matte black enamel. This will waterproof it really well. The oil-based paint will seep into the wood itself, which will provide a similar protection to the epoxy. We're just gonna go ahead and spray this out, and this should be good to go. right, we'll give this a second to dry, then I'll add the lip back on, and then we can get everything reinstalled. All right, now I'm gonna show you guys how I plan on attaching the floor to these support frames here while still letting the floor be easily removable. What we're gonna use is Extreme Outdoor Velcro. This holds up to 15 pounds of pressure weight, meaning that if you hung something straight on the wall, it would hold up to 15 pounds pulling down. For lifting up off a flat surface, this is gonna be more than enough to keep this in place no matter what kind of speeds that this Jon Boat's gonna be going with. Now, the easiest way to get this applied is going to be applying it directly to the frames here, then putting the floor on top, pressing it down, weighting it down, and kind of like letting all the adhesives cure before you do anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the vacuum and get this all cleaned up. Then we're gonna clean up the metal to install the Velcro. All right, so now to get the metal ready for the adhesive on the Velcro, we're gonna wipe this down with rubbing alcohol. This is 91%. This will get off any oils, overspray, dirt, dust, debris, anything like that. You can see how much is coming off of it. It doesn't even look like it's there. I'm not gonna do adhesive the entire length of it. I'm just gonna kind of do it right in the middle here. That will be more than enough to hold this down. Okay, now make sure this is just completely dry. And now with a simple pair of scissors, we're gonna measure out our area. It's gonna be about pretty much right here. We'll get this cut. We're gonna position this pretty much right center on where the floor is gonna go. So now with that side down, we're gonna peel off the top side of it, and then we're gonna put our floor on top, and then we'll leave it there for about 24 hours, and at that point, the wood will have cured onto the adhesive from the top, and then the aluminum will cure to the adhesive on the bottom. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get some weight in the center. Yeah, it already feels sturdier. It's not pushing up and down. You can see that it's already grabbed onto it, so that's great. And then I just got some random power tools sitting around. I'll put those up there. Okay, and now we're gonna leave this for about 24 hours, let that adhesive cure nicely, and this flooring is done.